the economics of wind and solar are not in January what they were in July.
That is correct. But even in July, they weren't that great. I think the issue really is people are focusing on crude oil, but really the problem with solar is if you're looking at the natural or the fossil fuels is natural gas. Really, you should correlate solar with natural gas because natural gas really drives the fundamentals for solar. Solar is a form of electricity. Yeah. So it's not really crude that's going to drive, the pluses or minuses of solar. It's the benefits of natural gas.
So all this that we had been reading about, how solar panels were getting just cheap enough that we could start to implement them is not that dynamics. It was never true?
It's not that it was never true. It's just that it was never as true as kind of some of the solar pundits wanted you to believe. But I think the real issue, taking a step back with solar, is Japan. Solar is a market driven by two key markets. It's China and Japan. And what Japan said recently is they're essentially handing over the keys to the kingdom with respect to demand to the utilities in Japan. And utilities really don't like solar because it hurts their overall economics. Did you want to?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say they're disincentivized, really, to push for solar energy.
Exactly. If you look at markets where essentially the keys have been handed over to utilities, Germany, Italy, Spain, the Czech Republic, in any of those markets when utilities have essentially been given the go-ahead to stop solar, you've seen significant declines in installations. Right now, Japan is 20% of the global solar market at 8 gigawatts in 2014. It's a 40-gigawatt market. We think there's significant demand declines coming next year in Japan, amidst a backdrop of a significant increase in capacity or essentially supply. So we think prices of solar panels are going to come down again in 2015, and that's not currently factored into street estimates.
It seems like every year we see headlines that year X is going to be the year of solar. When do you expect this global warming debate to eventually pressure these governments, Japan included, to include more solar panels?
Well, think about this. Solar is intermittent distributed power, which means when the sun's up, you get the power. When the sun goes down, you get nothing. Fossil fuel is baseload distributed power, which means you get the same amount all day. So the problem is you cannot replace baseload power with intermittent power, and I think that a lot of people don't understand that dynamic. So what's happening in Japan, right, the prime minister is actually shifting to supporting nuclear again. They're about to turn on 6 nuclear reactors because at the end of the day, you can't replace nuclear power with solar power.
And the irony is, Germany, after looking at what happened in Fukushima in 2012, took this radical decision and said they're going to get rid of nuclear altogether. How do you rate that transition now that they've had 2 years to put it in place?
Well, I mean, Germany was the world's largest solar market 3 years ago. They were installing roughly 7 to 8 gigawatts a year. This year, they're running at roughly 2 gigawatts, so significant decline. Again, at the end of the day, the utilities in Germany have become significantly less competitive against global utilities. Solar power is among the most inefficient forms of electricity from a cost perspective. So what's happening in Germany is they're actually reducing support for solar right now.
Alternative energy's future is so tied up with government funding and subsidies. How much of your analysis is tied then to accounting for election results and handicapping everything? It's
a lot, actually. But I think at the end of the day, what we really focus on is supply-demand. And I think in 2015, you're going to see a significant shift back into oversupply, given, again, the world's second largest market, Japan, we think is going to decline significantly. And, as you know, in any commodity market, when supply is in excess of demand, price equals the marginal cost of production. The marginal cost of production for solar panels is significantly below where prices are right now. So as prices come down, the earnings for stocks come down. As earnings for stocks come down, the multiples, you apply to those earnings, the stocks come down. So we think that there's big downside for a lot of these solar stocks into 15.
We know consumers lose interest in alternative energy when gas prices down, when their heating bills are coming down. Do investors follow suit?
They do. I think right now what investors are looking at is crude oil prices. But again, if you look at the R-squared correlation of the solar TAN index to crude oil and natural gas, past 5 years, it's much more highly correlated to natural gas. So I think with the big decline in natural gas recently, I think that also spells potential trouble for solar. But again, what we look at mostly is the supply-demand backdrop. I just think that the fall in natural gas is just providing more impetus for our thesis.
Gordon Johnson of Axiom Capital, I think I'm getting to understand something that's depressing me greatly, which is that there has to be a political solution to this. There can be no easy economic solution.